No, time for an entirely new microphone. What are you My solutions are always so drastic. Time for an entirely new microphone, when in fact, it was just batteries. Good morning and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of the South Fork. From East Hampton to Riverhead and Shelter Island, we worship and reside on the ancestral lands of the Montaukett, the Shinnecock, the Korchag, and the Manhasset. And we take this time in our service each week to acknowledge the Native people who claimed this land as home before European colonization. We honor generations of their care and stewardship with this land and with all the beings that share this land. And we honor our relationship with our Shinnecock neighbors today and their continued struggles for sovereignty and for justice. Whoever you are, whomever you love, however you vote, wherever you are on your life's journey, whatever your name for the sacred, you are welcome to bring your full, whole self here. I'm the Reverend Kimberly Quinn Johnson. Our musician this morning is Abby Fleming. Our tech hosts are Carl Wittenberg and Kent Martin. And if you are joining us online, taking advantage of that tech hosting, you have access to live transcript if you need that. And also, please know that the service is recorded except for the joys and concerns. I have a few announcements. If you read the Sag Harbor paper, then you will have noticed that our HICO grant program was on the front page this weekend. You can see it pasted to our bulletin board. That grant program provides grants to local organizations that are doing good work. It is a high impact community outreach grant. So organizations that are having a high impact in our community, and we are happy to be able to support it, and especially happy when we get to spread the word about that to people in the community. On Wednesday, our Care and Connection team will be meeting at 11:30 a.m. On Wednesday evening, our Finance Committee is meeting, and on Thursday evening, our Board of Trustees is meeting, and you can find information on how to connect to any of those in our bulletin and also in on our online calendar, which will especially tell you which of those events are in person and which are online. And you can get announcements that you would like to share with the congregation to the office by Tuesday of the week you'd like to have it announced. Do we have any visitors who would like to introduce yourselves this morning? Hi, New.
And the greatest half lesson is Reverend Kimberly last week.
Yay. Yes. Welcome, welcome. If you are visiting in person or online, we invite you to sign our guest book here on the front table or our virtual guest book, the link to which is in your chat. And someone from our Care and Connection team can be in touch to let you know more about what's happening here in the congregation. If you're joining us online, also, you should have a link to our online order of service, which will help you follow along and especially follow along to the hymns. Those words are in the online order of service and also in your chat online. I'm going to take a deep breath as we light our chalice, which is a symbol of our shared faith, with these words from Lawrence McGinty. To this house, we come bringing our boldest dreams, seeking here the inspiration and strength to make them be. To this house, we come hoping to bury broken dreams, to be sustained through pain and to discover new ones amidst their tears. We come here lonely, isolated from meaningful human contact, searching for warmth and closeness and care, needing to grow beyond plateaus of the commonplace. We seek here challenges and commitments productive of greater wholeness and deeper meanings. We come intense and constructed, hoping for encouragement to share our pretenses and to be ourselves. Filled with despair and self-doubt, we seek affirmations, prodding us to say yes to ourselves and to life. Somehow, always putting happiness ahead of ourselves, we enter this place trusting that what happens here will enable us to make and to accept a little bit of now, today. Strange place, this. Here we cry, sing, laugh, hurt, dance, touch, survive, celebrate, grow, search, doubt, hope, rejoice, pray, trust, care, learn, think, wonder, be, become. Yes, this morning, to this house we come. We are going to sing a song together. Kent Martin is not just one of our tech hosts, but also a song leader this morning. It's Around in your gray hymnal, number 396. I know this rose will open. Feel free to stand or sit, however your body feels comfortable.
I know this rose will open. I know my fear will burn away. I know this rose will open. I know my fear will burn away. I know my rose will unfurl its wings. I know this rose will open. I know this rose will open. I know my fear will burn away. I know my soul will unfurl its wings. I know this rose will open. Yeah.
We haven't done a round in a long time, so, stretch a muscle. Our first message this morning is a story by Paulo Coelho, who I'm pretty sure I'm pronouncing this correctly. It's The Lesson of the Butterfly. He writes, "A man spent hours watching a butterfly struggling to emerge from its cocoon. It managed to make a small hole, but its body was too large to get through. After a long struggle, it appeared to be exhausted and remained absolutely still. The man decided that he would help the butterfly out. And so with a pair of scissors, he cut open the cocoon, releasing the butterfly. But the butterfly's body was very small and wrinkled, and its wings were crumpled. The man continued to watch, hoping that at any moment, the butterfly would open its wings and fly away, but nothing happened. In fact, the butterfly spent the rest of its brief life dragging around its shrunken body and shriveled wings, incapable of flight. What the man, out of kindness and his eagerness to help, had failed to understand was that the tight cocoon and the efforts that the butterfly had to make in order to squeeze out of that tiny hole were nature's way of training the butterfly and of strengthening its wings. Sometimes a little effort is precisely what prepares us for the next obstacle to be faced. Anyone who refuses to make that effort or gets the wrong sort of help is left unprepared to fight the next battle and never manages to fly off to its destiny. May your roots grow deep. May your branches spread far. May you find this world to be a wonderful place with some struggle and some help, lots of flight, and leave it better for those who follow. There is lots of singing today. We actually have an extra song today, but who's gonna say no to more singing? This next hymn, also in your teal hymnal, the greenish hymnal, is number 1015. I Know I Can. There are 5 verses to this. We're going to sing all 5 of them. This one, I think, is not familiar to many, so Kent will definitely help lead this.
Oh, days darkened with dawns and burdens weigh my heart. The troubles wait at every turn. my sister in my heart, my brother in my song. Though troubles wait at every turn, I know I can go on. And though the journey is long, the death, I'm sorry, gone. Though troubles wait at every turn, I know I can go on. And though the way is long, the destination is near. The troubles wait at every turn, I know I can go on. So brothers, take my hand, and sisters, sing my song. When hope awaits at every turn, I know we can go on.
That is a pretty song that we don't sing enough. Maybe we just need to sing it more often. We support the work of this congregation through the gift of our time, our talent, and our treasure. Your financial contributions help to support the ongoing work of this congregation, including worship, religious exploration, pastoral care, community care, and your generosity is reflected in the ways that we are able to show up in our community. Our Helping Hand Fund goes to support local organizations doing good work, and the Minister's Discretionary Fund helps individuals in immediate need. If you're joining in person, you can contribute to the basket that will circulate. If you're joining online, you can contribute using the PayPal link in the chat. Your contributions are gratefully received. This is the time in our community of shared faith when we share our deep joys and sorrows, the concerns of our hearts. If you have a joy or sorrow to share in the room, we invite you to come to the microphone so that folks can hear you on Zoom. And if you're joining us on Zoom, we invite you to unmute yourself. You can do that by pressing *6 if you are on the phone, and we will light a physical candle here in the room for you. As we deepen into our worship, I want to invite you to take a few deep breaths and to notice where there might be tension in your body. And when you exhale, see if you can let some of that go. Sometimes this is the only stillness that we get in our weeks. These words are from Aniasin, risk. And the day came when the risk to remain tight in a bud was more painful than the risk it took to blossom. Life is a process of becoming, a combination of states we have to go through. Where people fail is that they wish to elect a state and remain in it. That is a kind of death. Living never wore one out so much as the effort to not live. Life is truly known only to those who suffer, lose, endure adversity, and stumble from defeat to defeat. Perfection is static, and I am in full progress. Let us hold these few moments in silence. You're up, Carl.
Inside. I met a prophet, dark as the night. She could see into my soul. Said she'd been watching and had some advice. She said shadows make you whole. A life without pain is a wolf in sheep's clothes. 'Cause if you listen to the lessons that it holds, you'll find the gold. Child, it's time to break the shell. Life's gonna hurt, but it's meant to be felt. You cannot touch the sky from inside yourself. You cannot fly until you break the shell. I can remember when I was a child, how the grown folks seem so crazy. Why are they so angry? Why are they so loud? And when I grow up, that's never ever gonna be me. That was the moment that I decided that I would build a wall just shy of 6 feet long, too strong to fall. Child, it's time to break the shell. Life's gonna hurt, but it's meant to be felt. You cannot touch the sky from inside yourself. You cannot fly until you break the shell. Courage is not being hard. It's time to peel back all of the layers you put between you're meant to be and who you are, and go be who you are. So much disappointment to finally understand that there is no such thing as perfect. We're all simply doing the best that we can, and we have the choice to live or truly be alive. This is your life. It's time to break the shell. Oh, life's gonna hurt, but it's meant to be felt. You cannot touch the sky from inside yourself. You cannot fly until you break the shell. It's time to break the shell. Life's gonna hurt, but it's meant to be felt. You cannot touch the sky from inside yourself. You cannot fly until it breaks the shell. Do with these words what you will. It's time for us to be for real. You'll be stuck on the ground until you finally break the shell.
That is one of my favorite songs and one of my favorite artists. So, lobsters and butterflies. The thing about living out here, for me, which might be true for you, is that my friends like to come and visit in the summer. It is their Hamptons vacation. And I keep trying to tell them, not like the real Hamptons where I live, but they don't care. For them, it's the real Hamptons. And when they come out, part of the trip every year is that we have to have lobster roll. It is a delicacy now, this lobster roll, this lobster. 300 years ago, that was not the case. 300 years ago, somebody's chuckling because you know, beaches along the East Coast of the US were lousy with lobsters. They were considered the poor man's protein, not a delicacy. People used them for bait or slop to feed their animals. They use lobster to feed prisoners or enslaved people. You could not pay most people to eat lobster. That was 300 years ago. Today, it's an entirely different story. Lobsters, I think, have a lot to tell us about transformation, about changing taste through time, but also about transformation in our own lives. As I was learning about lobsters, or what inspired me to learn more about lobsters, was hearing a story about how lobsters grow. Not a thing I usually think about, but think about it. They have this hard shell. The hard shell does not grow with the lobster. Instead, what happens is as the lobster starts to grow and the shell starts to get too tight, too small, uncomfortable, the lobster starts to develop this another layer of shell. And then it cracks the outer shell, it splits. And the larger lobster sort of slithers out. Its new shell is still soft and it's vulnerable. And so it finds a place where it can be safe and protected in this period. This regeneration period is also a time when if the lobster has lost something like a claw or a limb or an appendage, it just grows right back in this new phase. This, I discovered, is called molting. Lots of other animals do molting. Crustaceans do it, like shrimp or crabs or crawfish. Spiders and caterpillars molt. Some birds, reptiles. We all know that snakes lose their skin and get new skin. Sheep and elk, I learned, molt. Even German shepherds molt. It is apparently a pretty common thing in the natural world. But for us humans whose skin expands or shrinks as we grow, it is easy to miss this wisdom of lobsters or butterflies. That our discomfort can be a stimulus for our growth. It is a biological imperative or a social or a cultural imperative telling us that we need to expand into something larger or just different. Butterflies not just have this imperative to grow into a different form, but what they tell us is not only can discomfort be a catalyst, sometimes adversity is necessary for us to grow into the new thing that we are meant to be. Growth requires us to let go of our old shells, which is scary because our shells protect us when we are vulnerable. And for us, human as we are, this can be a hard world to live in. I mean, for me, this can be a hard world to live in. I am a woman who is Black, who is not wealthy. I lack connections. But in so many less obvious ways, it is hard for most of us. In a world that tells us that we have to hustle and push, that tells us that for some of us to get ahead, somebody else has to not. a world that judges us all of the time. This can be a hard world to live in. One where it would not be strange to want a shell to protect us. But a shell does more than keep things out. A shell also keeps things in. It keeps us from being who or what we can be. So I have skin, not a shell, but I do have examples from my own life of growing out. I think this might also be true if my conversations about COVID closets have any residents outside of my friend group, I'll say that. So I stand in front of my closet post-COVID, and there are many, many things that do not fit. They just don't fit anymore. But honestly, this is not just a post-COVID situation. When I stand in front of my closet, I have clothes that I moved here with 7 years ago, 8 years ago, that I have never worn because they don't fit. And it's not just about size. It's also about style. But I keep these clothes in my closet because they are a shell. They remind me of this person that I was, that I liked, that I sometimes think I can go back to, that I sometimes want to live into. That girl who wore those clothes. She was young, there's that. But she was also strong and idealistic and probably a little arrogant. She was really something else though. And when I keep those clothes in my closet, I have this idea of that girl that I was and sometimes wish that I could be again. But she is gone. This woman, though, is also strong in different ways, tested and resilient. Hopefully not so arrogant, but confident. Less idealistic, but still hopeful. This time, hopeful about the world, grounded in this commitment to work for justice and love in the world. With this knowledge that there are people who I get to create it with. That girl was a wonder. But this woman that I am today is also not so bad. This new person who has shimmied out of that old shell. There's a story from the Christian Bible, one of the Gospels. It's actually in many of the Gospels, about Jesus, that prophet, and people come up to question him. They want to ask him about fasting. This idea that people come up to question Jesus is not a new one. Whenever somebody is doing a new thing, putting forth a new program, pointing a new way, people are going to have questions, challenges. And so people come up to Jesus and they want to question him about fasting. They ask him, so the people who follow the Pharisees And even the ones who follow your cousin, they fast twice a week. But your people are only fasting once a week. What's up with that? And Jesus, in my version of the Gospels, Jesus is young and has a little bit of swagger. So Jesus tells them first about a wedding and some bridegrooms, and then he starts to tell them about repairing old clothes. But then he really breaks it down for them. What he tells them is that you cannot put new wine in old wineskins, because he tells them it's going to burst. And then you're going to lose the wine and the wineskins. Everything is ruined and you have nothing. You cannot put new wine in old wineskins. You can't put new things, new programs, new ways of being into old systems. You can't do a new thing the old way. We have to break out of old shells, which again, I know is easier said than done. We don't have a biological imperative to do that. We have a biological imperative to stay pretty much the same. And so we need to be intentional about how we break into new ways of being. Sometimes, like the lobster, it becomes obvious because whatever we are doing, whatever we are experiencing is so uncomfortable that we have to do something different. Sometimes, though, it requires paying attention, looking around us with a questioning and critical eye, and always baby steps, small steps, trying new things, experimenting, stretching. When I look at my closet now, a lot of the old things are gone, not all of them. And they are in a bag outside of my bedroom door. Because I still, there is a part of me that cannot quite yet bear to get rid of it. I told this story last week, and I really did believe that by the time I told you this story, I would have gotten rid of them. They are closer to the door. When you ask me next week, I hope that I have moved on. Baby steps. This congregation, new shells, new skins, all the time. This worship service, this way of dual platform with a screen and sometimes videos and a camera in the back, that's a new skin. There are so many ways that we have found it possible to be new and different, either because the old way didn't fit or because somebody looked around and said, hey, if we did it differently, maybe some other people would do it with us. When I think about Unitarian Universalism, also the ways that we are fighting white supremacy, the ways that we are working to understand what gender is beyond a binary, the ways that we are addressing ableism, this faith is finding new skin all of the time. New ways of meeting the challenge of this world, and maybe also posing some new challenges to this world. There's an allegorical story that I found in thinking about this service. It's from the children's writer Trina Paulus, from a book called Hope for the Flowers. Sometimes you might find this as a meme that says it's Winnie the Pooh and a friend, but it's not. This is an exchange that she has between two caterpillars, Yellow and Stripe. How does one become a butterfly? Yellow asked pensively. You must want to fly so much that you are willing to give up being a caterpillar. You mean to die? Asked Yellow. Not so much, said Stripe. Yes and no. What looks like dying is really that you will still live. Life is changed, but not taken away. You must want to fly so much that you are willing to give up being a caterpillar. Like lobsters and butterflies, transformation and growth is also our birthright. What she says in that song, it's time to peel back all of the layers that you put between who you're meant to be and who you are, and go be who you are. We can trust the wisdom of the universe. We can risk vulnerability and loss. That is not a question. I thought I might ask it as a question. Can you trust the wisdom of the universe? Can you risk vulnerability and loss? But lest you say, oh, I'm not sure, I am going to tell you that I know you can risk vulnerability and loss in order for us to be who we are meant to be, in order for you and your individual perfect self to be who it is that you are meant to be. The bird cannot fly from inside itself. You cannot fly until you break the shell. That, my friends, that is our call to transformation. And we can sing about it one more time with song number 130 in your gray hymnal, Love Will Guide Us. 131.
Love will guide us, peace has tried us, hope inside us will lead the way.
As we end our service, if you are joining us on Zoom, this room will remain open for a few minutes after service for some informal conversation. If you're joining us in the meeting house, we hope you'll join us in the fellowship hall and maybe a little outside for those of us who are more comfortable outside for some light refreshments and fellowship. And again, if you are visiting, we hope you'll sign our guest book so that we can stay in touch with you and talk more about how you can be a part of this transformative and transforming community. If you're visiting for the first time or the 5th or the 50th, if you find yourself in agreement with our values, our principles, we do hope that you will find a home here. These closing words are from Emily Richards. May you leave this time together changed. May the promises you have made to yourself about who you want to be feel closer to the reality of who you are right now. May you share that feeling of transformation wherever you go. May it spread into every word, deed, thought, and interaction until we are all changed, transformed and transforming together, becoming our better selves. We extinguish our flame with the words in your order of service or in your chat. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth. This last song, you have a sheet of pink paper to sing along to.
Please sing.